Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nancy Rosenow, and I'm the founder of Dimensions Educational Research Foundation, and I'm the former publisher of Exchange. I'm thrilled to be stepping a bit out of retirement, and I'm returning to support the Exchange community as the interim editor-in-chief. And I really want to welcome you all here today. Happy to be with all of you. At Dimensions Foundation, our mission is to inspire joy and wonder in children, educators, and communities with a heart-centered approach to early education. And we do this through our Nature Explore program, where we connect children to nature through outdoor classroom design and professional development. And of course, we do it through Exchange Press, and also our own early education programs where we serve families with children 6 weeks to 5 years. So in the Exchange part of our work, we support a reflective, heart-centered approach to teaching and learning. Our goal is to build a community committed to uplifting and supporting early childhood professionals worldwide, expanding access to quality leadership resources, and elevating our whole profession. Diverse perspectives and changing realities, advocacy, philosophy, and hope are all part of that conversation. So today we are just thrilled to partner with HINGE Early Education Advisors to launch our new Owner's Circle series focused on expert insights, practical strategies related to timely childcare business challenges and opportunities. So right now, my hope is that everyone joining today is already a member of Exchange, but if you're not, now's the time to join. We have several membership options to meet your professional needs, and you can scan that QR code on the screen to learn more, and I know we'll also put something in the chat. We'd really love for you all to be a part of the community. I think in our world today, we all need each other, and having a supportive community to be part of, I think, is what we really all are looking for. Today, I really want to thank Kathy and the HINGE team for collaborating with Exchange on the 38th annual status report on for-profit childcare, always something people are very interested in the magazine. And I want to thank all of you for joining us today. We're really looking forward to this unique opportunity to gain a broader perspective of industry trends and takeaway strategies so that we can all lead with confidence. And with that, I will turn it over to Kathy and she can introduce herself, although I suspect she probably doesn't need much introduction. I bet you all know her and her wonderful work. Kathy, take it away.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you for your very kind words. And I'm so thrilled to be here with all of you and love our partnership with Childcare Exchange and the wonderful work that they're doing to elevate the industry with our common goal of serving children and families and teams in the best way that we can. So thank you very much for that. I'm not sure I know everyone, but I'm the founder and CEO of HINGE Advisors. The core of our work is helping our clients exit their business and real estate. But what we really do for fun is anything that has to do with elevating the financial stability of the industry, which is such important work. If we want to do meaningful programs for children, we want to bring our staff forward, we want to support with quality, and having the resources to do that is critical. So that's my mission in life, and I'm thrilled to be here for that. I'm really happy to have been able to lead the annual article on the state of the industry for the magazine, and we are providing an update to that here today with two people who I consider to be top providers in the industry, and better than that, top human beings in my life, because they are both very gracious in taking time from their work to contribute to the collective good of the industry and to share their knowledge and share their learnings in hopes that it helps you in some way. that it helps you to do your mission better. I would love to talk a little bit about, sorry, I got a little out of order. I want to give a shameless pitch to our new nonprofit at Hinge called Boost. Boost's mission is to support the home and health crisis needs of early education teachers. As we know, that community is at times financially fragile, and one difficult event can send a teacher out of a classroom, disrupting 12 children, 24 parents, a community of care and education and stability for children. So since we launched in July, we have supported about 200 teachers with everything from food insecurity to family funeral expenses to medical expenses to housing. And we've deployed about $200,000. So please consider Boost in your giving. We would love that. Also, toward that end, I wrote a book last year that's kind of the culmination of my learnings and teachings with business owners and how to break down what's important in their financial load in their school, and 100% of the proceeds of the book go to Boost. You can buy it on Amazon. I will not mind pitching that because it's a mission for me, and I want to support teachers nationwide is our goal. We want to support as many teachers as possible. So thank you for considering that. I would love to introduce Leigh-Ellen, Louie, and Ricardo Campo again as two people that I consider to be great thought leaders in the industry and great givers of their knowledge and their time and their experience. And I thank you guys for being here. And I would love for you guys just to take a minute and introduce yourselves because your stories are better than I could ever express. So Leigh-Ellen, would you please tell us about you? And I am going to stop my share because I'd love for people to get to know you guys a little bit stronger. And Kara, if I just messed up our upcoming polls, you can send me a message. No, she says I'm good. Okay. So love to hear from you, Leigh-Ellen.
Sure. Well, I'll start off by transitioning. Those of you who know Kathy, and I know many of you do, know that when she calls and asks you to do something, you take the call and do it because she's always there for you when you reach out and make the call to her. So that's why I'm here today. And the great news is it's a topic obviously I'm thrilled to be talking about. But as quick intro, so Cadence Education, we've been around for over 30 years. We started with a small chain that evolved into Phoenix Children's Academy, and over the years, we've grown now to over 300 schools with a licensed capacity to serve over 50,000 children, which you'll know in that great annual article is right there. Our service offerings for our parents range from what we call our core service, which is a child-centric, home-like small group curriculum, to a range of specialty schools. So we have Montessori schools, language immersion, some preschool preparatory academies, and some faith-based schools as well. Just on a quick personal note, I've spent my career in multi-site consumer service businesses, with most of the last 14 years in early childhood. I feel like I found my way home because my mother was a children's librarian and passionate about literacy. She'd take the whole next hour talking about that. And my father was a CPA focused on growing businesses his whole life. So I feel like it's come together, being in a mission-driven industry as we are, but with the strong growth potential. And so I'm really sort of in my dream job right now.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And Ricardo.
Thank you, Kathy. It is an honor to be here with all of you. I'm so happy to be part of this very important conversation that I am so passionate about. I started Endeavor Schools about 13 years ago and serve as the CEO. We've grown into a family of 109 schools across 14 states. And what's unique about us is we serve three different models of education: Montessori, project-based learning, and play-based learning, and also serve about 20% of our population is K-12. So that's a little unique in ECE. But all of our schools kind of come together under our three pillars, which is relational pedagogy, nurturing learning environments, and developmentally appropriate practices. And then just a few fun facts about me personally. I live in Miami, Florida, married with 3 children. Those 3 children inspired me to get into this space. And I have a master's in education from UPenn, and I'm currently teaching a course there, which is new for me. So that's been a lot of fun at the Penn Graduate School of Education. Happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, that's awesome. I'm super glad I asked you guys to introduce yourself because I learned some fun facts too. So thank you for that. Before we dive into our content, I would like to invite you guys to put any questions you have into the chat. We're going to try to save a couple of minutes in the end and take a few of those and see what's important to you. Feel free to put comments that you'd like to share with this group. We'd love to hear from you. We do have a quick poll that we would like to introduce to you guys right now. And Kara, I'll let you tee that up and I'll just talk for a minute. So take your time. We are finding ourselves here 5 years this month post-COVID. Isn't that hard to believe? It sort of seems like a lifetime. It sort of seems like last year. So we are regularly asking our contacts about the interplay between demand enrollment and revenue, which has been very interesting and I think maybe has experienced some shifts since before COVID, like a lot of things have. So we find ourselves asking the questions about what it looks like in various areas and across various types of schools. So really interesting. Looks like you guys are probably going to land on all 3 markers being higher for you, which is fantastic. You will hear us talk about some of the factors that play in to what we're hearing and some of the contributing factors and issues that we see. We'd also love to hear from you guys. So I think we're about to normalize on that. And that's fantastic. We're thrilled for you. Thank you for sharing that. So you guys can see that demand, 85% of you feel that demand is higher. 69% feel that enrollment is higher, with 23% the same and a small amount lower, with that translating, of course, into higher revenue. 77% of you guys, 8% and 15% lower. So interesting. Thank you for that. It's one of our the initial things that we wanted to play off of, because in managing transactions for people across the country and reporting that we at Hinge have the highest deal flow we've ever had, about triple, with very successful companies wanting to capitalize on the incredible energy and positivity in the industry by moving their business or their real estate. So from our world, and everyone's perspective is different, we're experiencing a great amount of positivity and excitement in the industry, both from those that want to exit and those that want to invest or grow. So the majority of our community says to us, growth is our thing. We're ready to grow. So you'll hear a little bit more about that as we go. So we would like to launch with the various sections in the research that we did in the fall that played into the article that was released in January about the state of the industry, and asked the question, where are we now in each one of those categories? I don't know if you guys go back to the time where we could strategize once a year, or maybe we made a 5-year plan, and I chuckle about that now, because I don't know about you, but I'm reinventing life every 3 months now. I'm constantly going, wait, what's going on now? Okay, we got to pivot, let's shift. And if I know anything about this industry, it is innovative. It is energetic. It not only aligns itself with new trends, it finds better ways to do things, which translates into better experiences for children, families, and staff. So I'm excited about where we are, and the general feeling of that article, and sounds like from you guys as well, was one of positivity and growth. But I want to talk first about, we asked various questions about the interplay between demand, enrollment, tuition rates, and revenue, which was what we just polled you guys about. And it's probably, especially in the tuition rate area with new expense loads, has been one of the most changing areas of our industry since COVID. What we heard from respondents in the fall was that some of the influencing factors to them were that infant and toddler demand was at an all-time high, that they also were experiencing increased parent awareness and desire for their children to participate in very high quality early education experiences. We also heard that there were some increasing family financial constraints. We're not surprised about that. It's certainly not only in the area of their children's education, it's in other areas of their lives. And then public programs were increasing in some communities and having an effect on some of our respondents. And so, Ricardo, if I could just start with you and ask you what your experience has been and what contributing factors you've seen at Endeavor.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's an interesting time, and we've seen both some headwinds, which you just described, as well as tailwinds. And in terms of the headwinds, I think some of the big ones are we have all, as a sector, had to increase tuition to keep up with wages and operating expenses, and in many cases, those tuition increases have outpaced just general wages of our population, right? So it's put a lot of pressure on us to ensure that we are really showing our value proposition to families. And the good thing and a tailwind is that families are still very much interested in high quality education and investing in their children. But I would say more than ever, we have to be excellent at really kind of demonstrating our value proposition. And then I would say work from home is probably the other big shift that has impacted our sector. And so we're obviously very hopeful that there will be some more return to work and more stabilization there. But again, it goes back to value proposition. More than ever, we know that a lot of families are really interested in what we're doing for their children, and we want to make sure that our messages really resonate with them, and we have demonstrable outcomes that we can share.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. Could I pitch the same over to you, Leigh-Ellen? What's your experience been, and what other contributing factors could you note?
Sure. Well, I think from an overall standpoint, we can reinforce many of the observations that you had in the article, pressure on the school age, and the older kids with strong demand in younger, and certainly what Ricardo also just highlighted, pressure on household budgets and the need to demonstrate value. I think he'd agree, we always focus on that, and at the same time, it's becoming even more important. The other things that I would add, I guess, is, this has always been a hyper-local business. We always say that so that there's variation from place to place. We operate in 30 states, and I can tell you that the range is wide. Obviously, some markets performing softer than I would like, and then some that are up double digits. So it really is just reinforcing, I think, that part of it. Some of it even more so because of the difference that you have in the way states are doing funding or, just economic conditions. I will say that we're watching that return to office trend very closely. We haven't seen any increased demand that we can definitively attribute to that. That doesn't mean it's not out there, but we're watching it very closely. And I will say we have very recently seen an uptick in some competitors closing, which was discussed for quite some time, saying that once the federal money ran out last September, that there would be this big cliff, that everyone talked about. And then somehow it turned October 1st and there was not this cliff. But I would say very recently, we've started to see some example of that, and obviously continuing to watch that closely as well.
Awesome, great. A couple of comments to what you guys are experiencing. On the increased tuition side that Ricardo noted, our community reports that since COVID, staff wages have increased 30 to 50%. So if love to know what, if any of our you guys who are with us here today experience something different, love to hear that. And if you think about just balancing the new cost of care, facing that along with other increases, it was really difficult because most providers couldn't pass that completely along to families who just weren't able to sustain it. So we did see some effects of providers absorbing what they could there. Also agree on the work from home. We're starting to hear about some return to work situations. It's in pockets, of course. And some people are experiencing some surges in enrollment from some return to work situations. And agree with you, Leigh-Ellen, that we did not see what we feared so drastically was that we were going to have a broader community that was largely propping up their business on short-term funds. We were really fearful that some people didn't recognize what was happening there because they had that loaded in their revenue line, and it was difficult to identify what might happen when it went away. And we did we did not see a disastrous effect when the federal funds went away. So yay industry, learned how to adjust a little bit there, and we were really happy about that. So thank you for that. If we look at our second area, which was staffing trends, and I know everyone here who is in the industry knows that this is the probably where we experienced the most changes in the industry since COVID, with having to put new strategies in place to support our teams, to help our teams grow and learn. Some things that were noted in the article in the fall or that challenges remain. But, this is my 39th year in the industry, y'all. This has always been a challenge. We're not talking about a new concept. It's just a changing concept, right? So we've talked about staffing challenges for 39 years, and I'm sure before that, before my time, although we did hear a slight easing in the fall. So we did hear reports of a slight, not a profound, but a slight easing of hiring and of the experience and education of the teams we were hiring. And I think this might be the area where the most innovation has happened since COVID, or the continuing innovation to align with the teams that we're now hiring. So Leigh-Ellen, if I could just ask you first, have your needs changed since the fall? Have you noticed any new trends? And how have you strategized this area of your company? And I'll just throw out, since COVID, if you agree with me that that's been a very sharply changing time.
Sure. And just to answer that question that flashed, Kimberly, there are no slides that we're showing at this point. We're just having the discussion on it for now. So,
Thank you for that.
Kathy, I would echo what you're saying, multiple fronts. Number one, that it took all our time, right, for a while, and that it's eased. And at the same time, this is something that will always be key to the industry, right? Is getting not only enough people, but the right people, which is so critical to what we do. And that's what I would say. We can find people more easily now, but finding the right people on a simple level, those that have education background or have taught before, that's the simple level. And then obviously always finding people who do it really well. I would say that pay continues to be competitive. We have continued to try to invest in our analytics to tailor pay, to each competitive market because it really varies. I would say that as we look at attracting teachers, that it's not just the pay though, too, right? It's in the benefits that many of you on the call also like us do in terms of, discounts, or in some cases almost free care for teachers that come onto our team. And I think that we're really actually just trying to double down on the support that we give to the directors, not only in the hiring side, but in that really critical onboarding period, because that will tend to sort of make or break, especially as we're hiring teachers that sometimes do not have as much experience in teaching as we would like. That transition becomes so important. And we just want to make sure that our directors who know how to do it intuitively themselves, but may not know how to, balance that, right, while you're doing the 100 other things that a director should be doing at that moment. So, oh, and I would add, we've also strengthened for Cadence, our resources on the education team. So we hired actually the first vice president of education in the company's history, and actually a role that focuses on what we call classroom experience, because we have our classic educators, but it's to sort of reinforce the point that whole classroom experience that parents are looking for now is not just someone who understands like precise pedagogy, right? But someone who understands how that translates to all the things that develop the children socially, emotionally, and, bring the parents into the process. And that all comes back to actually making the teachers stronger in what I call this hiring market.
Love that. And Ricardo, what has been your experience since the fall? Any changes and anything to add to strategies that you've implemented?
Well, we actually, all of our hiring was done locally by school leaders, and prior to COVID. And post-COVID, we actually tilted up a talent acquisition team and have invested enormously in the team. We've also invested in high quality onboarding of teachers, lots of professional development. We've rolled out a ton of proprietary development around our 3 pillars and our different models, and really emphasize kind of a career path, and really, trying to make sure that teachers who are just starting have the tools and the resources they need to grow, and ideally to grow into senior teaching positions, and even potentially on our regional teams and academic team. And that's all helped. We've seen a lot of improvement, both on number of candidates that are applying for open jobs, as well as retention. And so year over year, we've seen about a 10-point improvement in our staff turnover, which is amazing, and really proud of that. And our staff NPS scores have also grown. So I'd say that, look, as an industry, talent is the X factor. We really need to be doing everything we can to attract the best talent, but also keep them. And I think turnover has plagued this sector for a long time. So I'm really proud of what we've been able to accomplish, and I want to double down on that and want us to keep going.
Love all of that. Just to add on a bit, that HR and recruitment teams are the area that we see most growing within organizations in response to needing to relieve that huge load from site level directors, or at least support better. So sounds like you guys have also made an investment there. And another trend that we're hearing, I'd love you to see if you guys are also experiencing this, is that the today workforce that we're attracting really wants to invest themselves in meaningful work. So a common theme we're hearing is to be sure that we are communicating well, we're hiring well with language that helps them understand the impact of their work, and they want to work for a company who they feel like is doing good things and getting it right. Are you guys experiencing that as well a little more since COVID.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think this whole generation is we're all probably looking for meaning out there, but certainly this generation, I mean, that should be a big plus that we can, lean into. And it's just, everyone wants to align to that meaning that we can offer. It's just balancing that against the practicality of, having 18 3-year-olds running around your legs or something like that. So
Yeah. We have to help them make that connection on
that's
some.
right. Exactly. We have to work a little harder to remind them that they're doing great work every
Yeah.
moment. So
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, really, the whole staffing area really just escalated to a point that I love the stark innovation and impact it's having on people and teams. And one of you guys mentioned career paths that we're hearing is so critical in helping them see that this isn't just a job that they go to and then they're in the classroom and they're there and do I want to do this forever, but that there's a path forward. And frankly, among our community that wants to grow, they cite that very often, that they have very progressive, dynamic people that will almost force you to grow and create new opportunities for them. So that's one of the reasons that people choose to grow. So the staffing area, I think that will continue to be a conversation and love the work that the industry is doing there.
Kathy, I can add one quick one to that post note, like you said, and I'm sure Ricardo does the same. We do support for our teachers sometimes to get CDAs, to get like specific credentialing. But again, just because I happen to know Ricardo and I did the same thing, particularly in our Montessori schools, because the credentialing is so difficult, to get, it's hard for people to balance. We actually both have within our companies accredited bodies. Ours is the Montessori Training Institute that's in Atlanta, where we give credentials. We basically license, we take people through and license them to be Montessori licensed professionals, and that we help them through that process to basically cover a good chunk of the cost. So, I mean,
Right. Yeah. The other thing I would add is I think we have to remember that assistant teachers are professionals, right? And that the turnover amongst that part of the education that we serve is huge. And so one of the things that we've also been doing is really investing in them, and ones that show promise, obviously are sponsoring them as much as we can to grow and to be credentialed. And that's part of this career pathing, but having in place that structure where you can give them very early on some tools, some resources, some credentialing to grow, I think is wildly important.
I'm going to draw in something before we leave this conversation that I have earmarked for the next conversation, which is around government connections and support there, which is several people cited more resources to help train their teams. Are you guys experiencing that? And if you are, can you call out a resource or two that would be a good one to tap into?
Kathy, do you mean external resources that we're
Yeah, for
using?
staff training. Are there funds available? Or is this more localized, or are there groups that are more global?
I would say state specific, Kathy. So we've seen support for teachers, but it's very state specific, and some states are doing a better job than others and making that investment. But there are several states that we're in that we've seen kind of step up and offer bonuses, grants, and help with further credentialing.
Great, thank you. Okay, our third area that we gathered information about was because the government support has been so critical for everyone in the last 5 years, and we depended on it, we strategized around it, we learned how to right side our cost of care, and then go back to depending on families' ability to pay tuition and subsidy systems' ability to support families. So we asked a lot of questions about that over the last couple of years. We heard mainly that we love the idea that efforts are aligning and that we have level quality standards. So we're looking for across the industry, we want to continue to promote level quality standards, meaning that all segments of the industry who serve children step up to the same level of care. So we're looking for that more broadly in the industry. We found on the federal level, there's some things that some groups are excited about that we hope that we can depend on, which are that there's some new mandates in the Child Development Block Grant Program to cap parent copays at 7% of their income, to pay based on enrollment and not attendance, and pay on time, which sounds a little bit silly, but they don't always pay on time, which means when services are provided. And especially for smaller organizations, that can be the reason they're not in business anymore, if they can't get paid when the expenses occur. So there are some things happening that states can I think there's a mandate to participate in, and maybe we have 2 more years, and maybe there's some outs there. I'm not as up to date on that as I would like to be. Also, most of the support after the federal funding shifted over to states, and there seems to be a very diverse set of support systems and strategies in the states. Some of those are really fascinating, and I have some favorites. I will say, just in general, training and for teachers, love that. I think that helps promote stability and also the career path that we talked about. My personal favorite is the states who are choosing, and I think you mentioned this, I think Leigh-Ellen, choosing to pay for the childcare of early education staff. So the beauty of this, is that it's certainly easier to recruit a teacher if there's a mechanism for that teacher's own children, for their childcare and education to be paid. It also gives a raise to the teacher, right? So it's a boost for the teacher who commonly in our industry would pay half of their childcare with their employer discounting or giving them a benefit of half. So it also helps support the childcare company. I get a little preachy on the effect of discounting, although I like staff, we don't need to mess with that. But I also believe that discounting broadly is a hidden danger in the industry, and we don't always have the information that we need to know the effect of our decisions there. But do either of you guys have anything to add to the government support conversation or favorite strategies that you see? What do you guys see? And I also love to invite our guest here to throw anything in the chat that they know of.
I'll add, I mean, I'll just put them in buckets rather than go by states, because I'm sure the attendees are in a wide range of states as well. But certainly we as quality providers, appreciate those states that are tying funding, like in the QRS states, because it makes sense. It's logical sense. The dollars are going to support what we all believe in. Like Kathy mentioned, we love those states that are really focused on workforce development, not only on the salary side but on the development. And we're certainly supportive of those states. There are some states that are focusing their money on lower income families and making sure that those folks are not left behind. We're certainly supportive of that. And at the same time, what I would call out is there's what might get lost, sometimes, is that the ability to pay for childcare is really a middle class issue as well. And so we do have cases where, if you qualify, almost make just too much money, right, to qualify for care, and then they're in just as big a pickle as, you know, those that if they had been making just a little bit less, and that's just a, you know, something that the whole ecosystem has to figure out. That's a very complicated issue to solve.
Definitely.
I'll add, we all have a voice, and I know Leigh-Ellen and I spend a fair amount of time on advocacy on behalf of our industry, and it's working. I think, you know, we do together, I think, have a great voice. That advocacy helped with funding during COVID, like ARPA, for example. We have a seat at the table when it comes to talking about, you know, equalizing the playing field. So Kathy, you mentioned quality. Super important that we speak up, and a lot of this happens locally, not federally, when it comes to just you know, advocating for quality in any mode of care, whether it's public or private or otherwise. And so I would just invite everyone to get involved from an advocacy standpoint. I think that's the number one thing we can do.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's such a hard investment to make for owners who are connected on a daily basis to operating their schools, and it's critical for the sustainability of our industry. And it's largely an education piece, right? So it's largely us connecting directly with decision makers to help them understand about the true cost of care and about the challenges that we have and that we see for staff and families. So I would also encourage that. I thank you for bringing that up. A couple of quick questions before we leave this. Being fair to the other staff, what is being offered in benefits? We often hear, you know, if we have paid childcare, what is your mechanism for leveling that with other staff? There are all kind of infrastructures that seem to favor some people over others. You could cite multiple children in the family discounts, or you know, if there's an industry discount in your school or a military discount. So various owners will make decisions to implement programs that help support groups of people. And of course, there's, if I read that correctly, there's at least the reality or perception of it not being quite fair. So realize that. Thank you for that question, Melissa. I'd love to go over to opportunities and challenges, because what I love that we seem to end every year's poll and combination of where the industry is heading seems to always just really go on a high note. And I love that so much. And I tease with people, but this is true when I say it, that every year I say, this is the year I'm most excited about. Things are great, where there's so much energy. We're doing beautiful things for children. And I think, okay, we've hit the ceiling. And the next year I go, wow, I didn't see that coming. And that's amazing too. So I like to talk about the opportunities. We've cited a lot of challenges, you know, and those have well, we've always had them. Every industry does, and they won't largely be easy or go away. But in addition to the ones we already noted in the article in the fall, we also heard a challenge of the inability of subsidy systems to pay the true cost of care. So this is one area of the industry that, you know, I love to do financial training and advice for people. And this is one area that absolutely requires this advocacy piece to help decision makers understand things like it's not, it doesn't go well to do a poll of current tuition rates to determine what the tuition rate should be, because we're already in most public programs not getting the tuition rate that we need to support the actual cost of high quality care. So there's a lot of education that needs to go into that piece. We also heard cited interest rate challenges, the price of real estate, and more recently insurance struggles. And there's some great strategies, you guys, on being proactive and controlling the narrative with your insurance company. If you haven't experienced an issue there yet, don't wait until you have an issue. Reach out, and we have some resources that you can use to be sure that you present yourself in the best light when you get insurance coverage. So that has quickly in the last year become an area that we're really strategizing and trying to support with. And then the opportunity that was most noted were public-private partnerships. I'm seeing some beautiful partnerships between Head Start and private companies, between the public schools and private companies, to do things both like be the provider of the public school after school program, or even be the provider of the pre-K program in the public schools. Some of our clients are getting the phone call because they took the time to develop a relationship early on. All of this is relationship driven with the public school that then got the money and called and said, hey, we need help. Would you come in and do this program for us? So Leigh-Ellen, if I could go to you first, if there are other opportunities and challenges that we haven't called out, could you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. And I'll start by saying I think you've noted great ones in the article and you know just what you added here. Kathy, I guess I'd say that ensuring child safety and managing risk is sort of always at the top of our priorities. It's probably why it's not in there because it's so ingrained in all of us. But I think it is important that you know all operators take it seriously because right we have a reputation as a safe industry. It's on all of us to ensure that people feel comfortable leaving their children in organized care. So to never forget that one. You know, I'd say that we sort of talked about it, but just keeping a close eye on factors you know that are impacting consumers. You know, it's a highly volatile environment right now. And so there's a lot to be watching, but I think it's probably important to have a number of contingency plans because we could turn right or left, you know, based on so many triggers. And so it is a year where I think you mentioned at the beginning, Kathy, and you can't plan for a year anymore because now every 3 months it has to change. It's making sure that you've got like a backup plan ready to go. In terms of the opportunities, again, there's so many, I think goes back to what Ricardo said early on. This is our opportunity is to really deliver value to families, which it always is, but it's even more heightened, I think, right now for many reasons that we've talked about. The one that I call out, some of you who might know me know this is a favorite topic, but I think we continue to have the untapped potential to further develop women as business leaders. We're an industry that's over 95% women at the frontline teacher level, but only 24% female at the top 50 CEO level that Exchange has published. And to me, that just represents opportunity to take the amazingly capable women, you know, in our industry and continue to give them the business and leadership skills to feel like they can move up into the CEO or equivalent role.
Those are fantastic. Thank you for that. And
Sure.
Ricardo, anything to add to our opportunities and challenges?
I get super excited about this, Kathy. I think there are a lot of amazing opportunities in our space. For starters, only 30% of 0 to 5-year-olds are actually enrolled in some kind of formal program. So think about that as just our opportunity to really spread what we're doing and spread our missions. And then only 10% of those formal programs could actually be considered high quality. And I'm sure most of the people on this call participate there. But that's yet another amazing opportunity is really to focus on educational value. And I think more than ever, as we've talked about, right, that's the opportunity today. So I would echo what Leigh-Ellen said there.
Love that. Thank you so much. Okay, similar question that we invited responses to on the survey in our article were, and again, we've all said we really have to look at timelines on a much shorter frame than we used to. But Ricardo, I'll pitch over to you first. Major activities for you guys for this year when when you sit with your team and you guys are talking, where are you headed and what major activities are important for you this year?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, we are doubling down on all of our talent initiatives. We've got some pretty audacious goals there in terms of where we want to be for turnover and NPS for staff. One of the things that we're excited about is rolling out loving guidance and conscious discipline, and we want 100% of our school leaders and educators to go through that, and we are well on our way. So that's exciting. So really focusing on professional development, growth of our educators. And then as an organization, we also want to grow, and we've got big plans to grow this year. So we want to ramp up our growth targets, our acquisition targets this year, Kathy.
Fantastic. We had a couple of yays for your comments about women leaders, Leigh-Ellen, that also to call out especially women or educators of color and women advancing into management and leadership. So we've got a lot of passion around that. Maybe we can grab some of these people and we can brainstorm it. But Leigh-Ellen, what are you guys thinking about when you think about the year ahead and what you want to accomplish?
Sure. Well, I'll start as we're wrapping too with just an echo of the optimism that we feel about what we have to do right now. I mean, I think about it again. We've got a great mission, right? We literally have the future of the country in our hands every day. We've got this great business opportunity, birth rate stabilizing, the importance of ECE, and most important, as was implied through here, we allow the country to get back to work, right? And that's, I think, we all know it, but sometimes that gets lost. And I personally am very excited because I think our team at Cadence is amazing, and I'm very proud of them. But in terms of major activities, it's funny, Ricardo and I didn't actually talk this, but my buckets are very close to his. So hopefully that's a trend that is, generalizable across everybody, if that is a word. I have many educators on the call, so someone should text me if that's actually not a word, which I don't think it is. But it's really doubling down on this delivery of value to parents. As I mentioned before, we're adding, roles in that area to make sure that the whole classroom experience is good. We also have a culture of kindness program that's why it's so funny that we didn't talk about that. We're again doubling down on this whole concept of talent development. As well for leaders all the way from, the teacher sort of every step up to, I just spent the last 2 days with the top 17 leaders in the company. And we had a whole professional development section for them as well, because that's so key as well. So continuing to do that. At Cadence too, because we've focused a lot on non-organic growth through acquisition. So we've brought almost 100 schools into our family over the last 4 years. We're excited. We're off to a great start again, but the challenge for that and the opportunity is that we're spending a lot of time on culture, because when we're bringing that many new schools into our family, what we're trying to figure out is how we can pull the best of the schools that are coming in with us and sort of enrich the overall Cadence culture and make sure that as we get larger, that we don't lose that connection, because everybody wants to really feel a part of something. And so we're spending a lot of time on doing that as well. But yes, many reasons to look forward to this year.
Amazing. Thank you for that. I'll end, although I'm going to invite you guys again to put any questions or observations you have. We have about 5 minutes and we'd love to engage, but I will end with something that you touched on, which is that, as difficult as the last 5 years have been, there have been some opportunities to serve people better. And one of the things that I note is that the world sort of lifted their heads 5 years ago and went, wait, what is this childcare thing that's allowing us all to go to work and to sustain economically and to sustain medically and whatever it was that us being open allowed for. And I just think that what we recognized as a very sophisticated, necessary industry got recognized by the rest of the world. And I say that because I have constant interaction with people internationally, nationally, that provide care, that are interested in investing in care, that want to contribute in some way, that see the industry as an opportunity. And I'm always looking for the silver lining, but I really do think that we came out of it, and I think we are out of it. We came out of it stronger, with serving our mission in ways that we never saw, and also that we're beginning to get the recognition of the world that this industry deserves and needs. So those are things that I'm super excited about as I work in the industry and work with some of you guys. So we must have done a really good job. And thank you, thank you for that, Marianne. Thank you so much to Leigh-Ellen and Ricardo, who I consider to be both just amazing people investing their life's work in the industry, but also happy to call friends. And I do know that if I called them, and I do this sparingly, but sometimes on a weekend or a night, and I said, hey, the industry needs you. This happened very early on in COVID, when we made it our mission to get information out to people about what to do, when even licensing didn't know what to do, and the health department didn't know what to do. And of course, our work shut down for a bit, but we called on those relationships to say, here's what we're doing, try this. And not one single person said no. It's just the nature of the giving capacity of this industry that people support each other the way that they do. So thank you to you two, and to everyone here that is interested in learning and supporting our industry collectively. I will
You, Kathy.
Thank you.
throw it back to you, Nancy.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Kathy and Leigh-Ellen and Ricardo. And I love your optimism. I also really loved hearing your focus on supporting people. We know how important that is. And it's one of the things that Exchange is most excited about, is lifting up the professionalism of the industry. I'll just share two quick things, that because it's an exchange of ideas. And I just heard this recently from some owners that in addition to lifting up women leaders, yay, there's also an untapped group of people to be hired for classroom teachers, and that's men. Very few men are classroom teachers, but the owner found that when he specifically in his advertisement said, we are welcoming men and women, and men read that, he got a 30% increase in men applying for jobs. So there's a tip for people. The other thing, heard from someone that when a person came in for an interview, on the coffee table was a copy of Exchange magazine, which she read while she was waiting for her interview, and said, if this is the kind of company that sees us as professionals, as evidenced by Exchange, I want to be a part of this company. So you might want to make sure you have an Exchange magazine lying all around when you're interviewing people. So, or, just for your staff. Honestly, I really believe that having that kind of, it's really a message to people that we see you as professionals. And the last thing I'll share is a director who said in their staff meeting, they practice what to say if someone asks at a party, what do you do? How to talk with talk about your job with pride, and to really emphasize the professionalism of what you do. I thought that was a great suggestion. So Wonderful to have you all here. Just love having all the participants on the call with us. And, at Exchange, we really delight in the opportunity to bring together your stories, everyone's perspectives from all across the early childhood world, and rich and meaningful and engaging conversations. So, we want it to be a true exchange of ideas. So I want to invite all of you to think about writing for Exchange. You can scan the QR code. I think Kara will put that back up in a minute, or she'll put a link in the chat to learn more about how to do that. And really be sure to go over to the Exchange Hub, read the newest article that's part of the Owner's Circle monthly series, because Kathy is so graciously offering to make sure that there will be ongoing monthly articles for all of you to give you tips and support. So this monthly article is going to be called How to Increase Revenue for Your Early Education Center Without Raising Tuition Rates. That sounds like a really good one. So head over to exchangepress.com. You'll see it featured on the homepage. And again, I just can't thank you enough, Kathy and Leigh-Ellen and Ricardo and everyone here. We loved having you and hope to do this again soon.